Hello, hello. In this video, I will be covering the eye brushes, lip brushes, and eyebrow brushes from the J series, the B series, and the 200 series. So again, this is only the eye brushes and sort of more detailed brushes, face, lashes, lips. If you're looking for the brushes from those series for the face and the cheek, I have a previous video titled Hakuhodo J series, B series, 200 series, face and cheek brushes. So the reason why I lumped all three of these together is because there's a lot of overlap among the three lines, and I wanted to really put all of them side by side so you can make the best informed decision on which brush you should get. For a quick summary, the B series stands for the basic series. It's kind of Hakuhodo's best hits. They pull brushes from their most popular brushes from their J series, K series, and G series and put them in the B series. And over the years, some brushes have made their way in and out of the B series. So if some of these look familiar, it's because they've probably been covered. Their cousins have probably been covered in my G series and other videos. So I'm going to be starting with the round eye brushes because there are fewer round eye brushes compared to the flat brushes. So Hakuhodo has a very unique shape that I call the doe foot shape. So kind of like how you have the doe foot applicators for your lip gloss, lipstick. They have this doe foot shape for their eye brushes. So this is their J513 and this is their J515. So two different sizes of brushes, and the 513 comes in a Canadian squirrel version as well in the G series, much more expensive but heavenly soft. And I really like these doe foot brushes, even though they look kind of intimidating to use because they have all this surface area that you can use. So you can use the big flat thing for an eyeshadow base, and then you can tilt it this way to really blend out the lid plus orbital socket because that long side is just a great wispy blender. You get a nice gradient effect with a complex eyeshadow without doing anything. And I really do like this large size better than the small size because it just has more flex to it and it just is a more beautiful blender. And of course, because of that large surface area, it's versatile and you can use it for face highlight, nose highlight. Can't really use it for contour. It'll be a little bit harsh for that. You can try if you'd like. And then that tip, if you flip it this way, you can use it for underneath the eye as well as doing the corner on the inner and outer. The small one is a little bit more firm in comparison to the large one. You can see how much the large one bends, and it's actually really good for eyeshadow because of that bend, and you just get a nice seamless crease. And also because of this like sort of comet tail shape, you can kind of just stamp it on the outside and just drag it in, and it will blend your eyeshadow really nicely. I do have a video on how to use doe foot brushes on my channel, so check that out later if you'd like. So this is the really steep slant that I prefer. They also have a less steep slant, and you use it in all the same ways, but because it's more compact like this, it will be a stronger blender. So whereas I wouldn't use this very steep slant for cream shadow, I would use this less steep slant for cream shadows. And if you want to lay down a cream base such as the Maybelline Color Tattoo, this does a really great job of it because, again, that longer side versus the shorter side, if you have a complex color like Bad to the Bronze, it'll put down a gradient for you just as you apply, and you really don't have to blend anything, and it looks like you did a pretty complex look with just one eyeshadow. So again, this less steep slant comes in two sizes. There's the J112 and the B125. The B125 is the smaller one, and they put the smaller one in the B series because they figure it'll be useful to more people because of that more reserved size. I do have to agree with them. For the steep slant, I prefer the J513 over the 515 because it's just very, very nice. But for the more firm, less slanted one, I do prefer the 125 over the 122 because this one can be a bit much and it does cover a lot, whereas this one you can kind of keep it closer to your lash line, and if you want a more blown out effect, manually move the brush up and you just get a lot more control with the 125. And the 125 also is pure goat, I think. And then we have these here. This is the B125R. If we compare it to the 125, you can see how the inclusion of synthetic hair makes the volume smaller. So then you get even more precise control with this one. And even though you can use the 125 for cream shadow, you can absolutely use the B125R for cream shadow as well. You just get a little bit less surface area. And if you have a shimmer, this synthetic blended in with the synthetic poking out will make a shimmer shadow go on more shimmery. Whereas if you apply with the B125 All Goat, you get more of the matte base. So All Goat, if you want more of a matte eye, matte to satiny eye. If you want more of a shiny to shimmery eye, use the B125R. And then 125R is also really great for spot concealing around the face. So you put in a little bit of concealer and you just dab, dab, dab. And because the tip is not super thick, it won't wipe away your base and it'll just nicely blend out if you just move it in a little bit of a spiral outward to spot conceal. And the 125R does have a bigger cousin, the 122R. So lining up the J122, the J122R, the B125, and the B125R. So again, the J122R will have the same application effect I explained for the B125R. And it has a smaller footprint because of the synthetic blended in. Pure goat just tends to fluff up more. So those be them. And then I did cover this B214 in my face and cheek video because this can be used for face and cheek and can be used for highlighter here. It's a little big for an eye brush, and because you have that big round dome, unless you have very big eyes, you probably won't find this too practical for eyeshadow. If you use cream contour, you can use this one to blend it out. It's great through the nose and socket and temple if you are using a cream contour or a shadow contour for that. It can apply a little bit heavy and take a while to really get the harshness out, but because it will fluff up more, you'll get a pretty nice blend with it. And because it's so dense, you can just sort of erase it. And then this is a J214. This is more suitable for an eye brush because of that synthetic blended in. It brings it to more of a point. So then you can really put it into the socket like that. You can see it just carves it out very nicely. Again, down the nose, on the face for highlight. And the synthetic, again, will bring out more of the shimmery, shiny base, or shimmery, shiny sparkles rather than the matte base. So now we have, there's 3 medium to largest round blending eye brushes. I'm surprised there were only 3. So here we have the J5522, here we have the B142, and here we have the J5533. So the most similar of these two are, well, none of them exactly. The J5522 is this sort of flame shape, and I love using this one for face highlight. For contour, it just makes a very nice precision contour brush through the eye socket, down the nose, and of course for doing a smoky eye. And then this one is also good for doing target powder underneath the eyes. Like if I only want to do a little tiny bit, I pat this on and then I blend, blend, blend. So for this one, this for me is kind of an indispensable face brush rather than an eye brush because I just it's a little too big for me eye brush wise. I prefer using the 142, which still has that nice taper, but a little bit less of a steep one. This one is more suitable to my eye size, and I don't have calipers to measure my eyelid space. But this one just works better for me. The 133 will work if you have a lot of lid space because of that flatness to the tip. So if we look at the surface area coverage between these 3 brushes, this one, okay, let's do it this way. This one covers quite a bit. This one covers quite a bit, but not so much. And once we get to the 133, it covers almost more than the 122 does because of that less tapered tip. So here's what the 122 covers. No, sorry. Here's what the 5522 covers. And here's what the 5533 covers. And I'm pressing with approximately the same amount of pressure. And here's what the baby of the bunch, the 142 covers. And it doesn't look like that much of a difference on my finger, but it does translate to a bit of a difference on the eye. And the reason why I don't use the 5533 for contouring around the face is because it doesn't have as much hair in it as the 5522. The 5522 does feel denser. This one, however, would not be terribly good for a wash, while this one would be very good for a wash if you've applied foundation over your eyelids and you just need to put some powder over it to set it, and then you go in with a transition color with the same brush and then do the rest of your eye makeup blending. So then we have two smaller round blending brushes. So this is the B142, this is the J146, and this is the J5529. So once again, Hakuhodo knows what they're doing. They put the 142 from the J series to the B series because they figured this will be the most useful size for most people. However, if you're not most people and you want a smaller blending eye brush and more precision, the J146 still has that lovely taper shape, so you get that control, but now you get the added option of being able to use it on the inner corners and outer corners more. 146, you can use on the inner corners and outer corners. 142, you can still use on the outer corners, but you're going to get less precision with it, basically. So if you're doing a cut crease, the 146 would be better for you. And then you have the J5529, in which you sort of lose that taper tip and you get a more rounded one. Unlike the 5533, it doesn't have that big like floof at the tip to it. So this one is still rather restrained. But if we're looking at surface area coverage, this is what the 5529 covers. And this is what the this is what the 146 covers. And this is what the 5529 covers. So you can see a little bit more if I press with the same amount of pressure with the 146. And the 5529, even though it looks the same head-on, covers less and is more precise. And if you're doing a big blown out smoky eye, I would totally use this one for blending out the under eye and then connecting it to the upper. And now we have pencil brushes. So we have the B533 and then we have the B5520. This one's the 5533, B533 is pure horse. The B5520 is a mixture of horse and squirrel. I don't think I need to keep saying how great Hakuhodo's horse is, and I honestly cannot feel that big of a difference between the horse-squirrel mix and the pure horse. The way you would select between these two brushes is how much precision do you want again. So they're both suitable for blending out and smudging, except the thing is with this one, the inclusion of squirrel would maybe preclude you from using it to smudge out gel liner or pencil because that is considered a wet texture and you're not supposed to use squirrel with wet textures. Of course, you can do whatever you want with your own brushes. It's just not recommended. Precision-wise, of course, this one's going to get you the smaller tip and more precision, and this one a bigger, fatter smudge. If you would like a precision smudge with pencil and gel liner, you'll have to look to the G series. This is the G5514, and you can see the tip is even finer on this one, and this white horse is pretty soft and silky while still having very good snap. Like it snaps back so fast you pretty much can't see it on camera. And just holding up these three again size-wise, the 5514 is a tiny bit smaller, but not by much. And you have like basically like that. So that's all the round eye brushes from all 3 series, surprisingly. So we're going to move on to the paddle brushes. So I'm going to start with the kind of combination, application, and blending brushes, and then move on to the straight application brushes, or lay down brushes rather. That's the word I'm looking for. So they have these paddled angled brushes. So what these are good for is straight blending through the creases. You just wipe, 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 and then your crease is done. And then of course you can use that for laying down lid color as well. So this is a really good one and done brush if you don't really do inner corner highlight, or you pair this with one of the small brushes like the 5529, the little round one, or one of the pencil brushes to do your eye detail. This is the J232. This is the B232. So this one is pure goat. This one is squirrel. The squirrel one is surprisingly resilient, and the difference is the goat one will fluff up more and be wider once you dry and fluff it, but not by much. And this one is a mixture of pine and North American squirrel, so it doesn't have that silky and softness of Canadian squirrel. But this design is on purpose because it gives you stronger blending ability. Personally, between these two, I see no reason to not get the goat. The squirrel is surprisingly firm. Like, if you can see, it's just bouncing back almost immediately. And then we have a size down. So this is from the 200 series, the 238, and then this is the 239. So size-wise, here you go. This will probably be suitable to do underneath the eye as well, but I would still probably stick to using this like across the lid like this for a sweep of lid color, or for a sweep through the crease to blend. And again, it's up to you whether you want to splurge for the squirrel or just get the goat. Honestly, they feel pretty similar to me, and I personally like goat better because I can see when it's dirty and when it's really time to wash it. And then we're moving on to, oh, there's one more. This is the J529, and this is actually my favorite. It's the J529H. The H denotes horse, and this is actually the softest of the 3, surprisingly. Like, I'm not sure why or how, but if I had to pick a 239, I picked a J239 horse. It's just, when I picked it up and felt it, I was like, wow, this is nice. This is silky. So there's those. And then surprisingly, this J5523 is the only sort of long, skinny paddle blending brush. And of course, this one's a classic. The MAC 217 is no longer natural hair, it's now synthetic. So if you want a natural hair long paddle blending brush, this is it. And then of course you use it for blending, you use it for lid color this way, use it for lid color this way, and you can also use this for under eye concealer, around the nose and around the face, and you just sort of like pat it on and just blends it in as it applies. Super nice brush, definitely one to have multiples of. Short, fat, squat face brushes, base brushes. This is the B532. This is the J532. Squirrel, goat, take your pick for putting down eye base. If you're doing an eye base with actual cream shadow or liquid, of course you're going to go for the goat. But if you just want a big sweep of color, like you use the Suku palettes and you have like 4 colors, you take one brush, you put your base color down, you turn it, you use your lid color, you turn it again, you use the tip, and then you use that for the outer V, and then you just take your pinky or take another small brush and then you do the highlighting on the inner corner. So this is, because of that bladed shape, a great one and done brush if you're using multiple colors. So base, lid, tip for the corners, and just a little brush. Same thing with the goat. I just demonstrated the squirrel because it was more convenient. And of course, the goat will fluff up a little bit more and be a stronger blender, but otherwise, they're pretty interchangeable. If you can stand like something that's not the absolute softness, go for the goat. Now we have these big eye brushes here. This is the J006H, and then this brush is great for laying down base, and because you have that fluffiness to it, you'll be really good at blending out. And then because you have that tip, you can do outer corner with it, and then of course use that chiseled edge for just laying down lid color underneath a crease. And then we have the B021, which is the same idea with the diamond tip. It fluffs up less, again for all the same purposes, base, lid, outer corner, inner corner. The difference between these guys and these guys is you get more flex here compared to here. This will put down shadow more opaquely. And also be not as good as blending. You won't get a really blown out eye if you use this brush versus if you use this brush. And similar to the B021 is the J021 in Go. So goat, squirrel, horse, this is how they all line up. The goat one fluffs out the most and will give you the most blown out blend. And then we have the J021GS. This is goat synthetic. And because of that synthetic in blended in, it fluffs out less, even less than the horse actually, and it most closely resembles the goat in shape once it's been washed and dried. And then of course with this one, because it's goat and synthetic, you can use it with cream shadow. And you can also use it for under eye concealer. I would use this one for under eye concealer and not the big fluffy goat one, because this one's just slicker and it just applies under eye concealer better. It's not really quantifiable, but it just performs better with under eye concealer. And then of course with this one you use the licking motions with it. And then we have the 221. This is from the 200 series. How it compares to the J006H is that it's thinner and it has the DNA of the 021 brushes. So the 221 brush has the DNA of the less fluffiness and more chiseled tip. And then we have the J121H. And for all intents and purposes, the only thing I can see is that it's a little bit shorter and relatively thick. When you feel it though, that's where the difference is. Because of that extra hair buffering, it does feel firmer and makes for a better lay down brush if you want opacity. And then we have the J220. So here we are. Pretty much the same shape and size. And then we have the J220H. Out of these brushes, I really can't say which one is the best. Let's see, let's line them all up again. So it's really just a difference in size. I'd say these two are probably the most similar, the J121H and the J006 are comparatively thicker than the others. And those are the large paddle eye brushes, so combination of lay down and blending. Now moving on to the more medium-sized lay down brushes. Here, most of these are horse. A couple of them are goat. Okay. We have the J127 and the J133. So these have almost sort of a pentagon shape. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the fifth edge would be the ferrule. And then this gives you a nice working surface for base, lid, and then because of that tip, you can really wrap or smudge eyeshadow, do the wrap, and then outer V. I do like the 127 better because it's longer and has a little bit more flex to it compared to the 133. The 133 will be the stronger lay down brush though. If you want to get it more true to pan color, the 133 is better. However, even better than that, in my opinion, is the G5505. And it's just, you see the flex at the tip? Let's see. The 5505 has more flex to it. And then what this does when it translates on is you have this color strong at first and it fades out, and that just gives you a nicer gradient faster than a stiffer brush like the J133H does. So the 5505 is more flexible and better for if you're just trying to do a pass and get the shadow to blend right away. And then we have another medium-sized brush. This is the 5507, slightly smaller, comparatively wider, and comparatively firmer. So this one almost goes back to the big ones where you lay down and you blend with the same brush because it's thick. This is how these compare on the eye. And then we have the J004H, which is slightly longer and slightly thinner. So let's compare it to the 5505 actually. Here you go, 5505 slightly longer, 5505, J004H, B5507. Here we go. I'm turning them this way. This is how they compare on my eye. And then we have the B004, which is sort of the classic laydown brush. And then the B004, B004G and B004. B004G, the G denoting goat. And then these are smaller, more compact, and a little firmer. So these are truly laid down brushes, and you can't really get any blending out of them unless you're using it to blend sideways for smudging. This is how these compare. And then this one is, I believe, a mixture of pine squirrel and North American squirrel. But again, it's quite resilient, but you can't use it with cream shadows. So if you're using creams, liquid texture, that type of thing, the B004G is your friend. Then we have these slightly longer brushes, so they're longer than they are wide. And we have on the bottom, the 243HS, the J243HS, the J242HS, and the J242. So all three of these brushes are lay down brushes again, but they're smaller and thinner in comparison. So you don't quite cover as much surface area. And then with the tips, again, you can use it on the outer corner, smudging, and you can use it on the inner corner for application as well. The J242 is going to be the most versatile with goat hair. And well, you can use horse with liquids and creams too, but I still prefer the goat because you can see just how dirty the brush is. And surprisingly, the J243 is bigger than the 242. Normally, as the numbers go up, the brush sizes go down. But this is a 242HS and a 243. 243 is longer. And then we have these really long skinny brushes. And these are combination eye brushes and lip brushes. This one's definitely a lip brush, the B516. It has that cap on it, so it's portable. You load it up with lipstick and you whoop. You get that really nice shape, round shape, so you can do your Cupid's bow, fill it, and then you use it on the side like this to trace and line, so you don't need a lip liner. These are horse brushes that you can also use for a lip liner. This is the J171HS. This is the J246HS. So these can be for eyeshadow, or laying down this way, smudging this way, inner corner, outer corner. But they can be used for lip brushes as well. When you use a synthetic with lip brush, or with lipstick as a lip brush, you get a very glossy effect. If you use horse, you get a more matte effect, like you've already blotted it. And if that's what you're going for your lipstick, then great. The 246 is a little bit more tapered in the tip than the 171. So if you're using it for smudging eyes, this one will give you a bigger haze than this one would. But if you're using it with lipstick, once it gets matted down with lipstick, it doesn't really matter. And then this one can do a little bit of blending because of that fluff to it, as compared to the compact tip. Let me put these away before they fall on me. There you go. And then we have this little brush here. This is the regular 246. And this one, in comparison to the J146HS, is, I'm not sure what the difference is besides price. They kind of feel the same to me. And they kind of have the same stiffness and flexibility to me. This one, actually, yeah, the 246, J246HS is slightly more flexible, but not super apparently so. And then we're back to sort of short squat brushes. These are really good for lay down if you're trying to pack on shimmer. If you're foiling shadows, these are good for it. The smallest one on the top is the J144H. The middle one is the B138, and the bottom one is the J134H. So if you're picking a lay down brush when it comes to this, it really depends on size and what you want. They pretty much all do the same functions of lay down and detail, inner outer smudge here and here. And then we have what I consider to be liner brushes now. Okay, so here's the 144. Here's the J005. You can see the DNA is kind of the same, but now it's wider than it is long. And that's what this series of brushes are. So these are very good for smudging, like very, very good for smudging. And if you put down a smoky eye where you do a gel liner first, and you go over it with powder shadow, this is great for you. Do powder shadow, you stamp it on, and then you blend it all together, so then you get a nice blown out effect. Personally, I like the B5501 best, the 5510, and then the 5511 is the medium size, and then the J005 is almost a lay down brush, but this one would be for, like, if you're trying to just really pat on precisely, like you have a loose glitter, you get your brush a little bit dampened and you pat this on. These would not be so good for it because they're shorter and they don't have enough flexibility. I mean, not flexibility, they don't have enough surface area to really pick it up and deposit it like the 5005H would. But really, if you're looking for a loose pigment foiling brush, a lip brush is great for that. Now, with those flat eye brushes concluded, we are going to go into the liner brushes. So we have these short little ones again, except they're flat topped, unlike their little round cousins. So these are good because of that flat top across the tip, compared to the taper tip. These are good for pushing stuff into your lash line. So for tight lining, upper and lower lash line. And the small one is the J521H, and the large one is the J5522. Personally, the J5522 is my preferred because it has more wiggle and more flexibility to it, as you can see. But you are going to get more precision and more control with the 551H. It just might feel a little stiff. It won't feel pokey. It won't feel unsoft, but it will feel firm against your eye. This is the B181. You could use it for lip liner, but you can't really use it for lip filling. because it is so small, but it's great for liners. So lining through the lash line, tight lining, and doing a wing liner as well. Even though it's not angled, because it's round, you can really just kind of like roll it up from the bottom, make a little wing, and then just connect it over through the rest of the eye. And then we have these sort of classic liner brushes. The top is the J007HS, and the bottom is the J007H. HS, just H. They're both made of horse. The difference is the HS one is more flexible. So depending on how good your eyeliner skills are, you might want the more flexible or the less flexible one. The more flexible one might hurt if you like jab it in straight away, but it will give you the most precision and the most crisp lines. Versus with this one, the HS, you have to be a little bit more precise with it. And you can't just willy-nilly press down because otherwise you get a thicker line. And then we have the J190H and the J190S. Horse, synthetic. I prefer the synthetic because the horse, look how flexible this one is. The synthetic, less so, and you get more control with it. And then this is how the length of them, the 190s compared to the 007. This one's a bit of an odd one. This is the B180, the B180. So it has this nice chiseled tip here. You can use it for lining lips, filling lips, eyeliner. Again, like you can like kind of stencil the wing on and then connect the rest of it. Tight line. I wouldn't use it for bottom lash line tight lining though. Just a really good brush, kind of like a paintbrush, but hey. And for concealer, you can use it for cleaning up the lip edge or cleaning up your brow edge or put in a bit of Bioderma and clean up your eyeliner edge. These 3 square lip brushes. So you have this long one. It's kind of shaped almost like a classic lip brush. Both a square tip. Again, this one will give you more of a matte blotted look if you use it with lipstick. If you want gloss, go for a synthetic. And then this one can be used for smudging out and blending out eyeshadow. I don't really know. I actually really don't use these flat tip brushes much. If someone loves them, feel free to chime in the comments on what you love using them for. I'm just showing you these guys so you can see the sizes. So the J170H, and then the J523HS, and the JP12H. So this one is rather flexible. This one, pretty flexible. And this one, less so. So strong blender, good blender, wispy blender. Or lip brush in this case. I don't know if I'd use this for lip brush. Probably not. Alrighties. We're moving on to lashes. This is a lash comb. This is the B019. Personally, I prefer the metal lash comb, but if metal freaks you out because it looks almost like tiny ends of safety pins, a lash comb is really indispensable for like fanning out your lashes and making them look full and fluffy, especially if your mascara, you use a primer or you use several coats and you want to fan your lashes out again, separate them, separate out the clumps. This is great for that, the lash comb. The metal lash combs are in the K series, and they actually have like very pointed tips on them. Okay, brow brushes. Here is the K028. Here is the B028. If anybody can see a difference between these at all, please let me know. I think the comb on one is a little bit longer than the other. No, not really even. But these are made of horse, and then the plastic is a comb for your lashes. And then this one is for grooming your brows and shaping them. Personally, I don't like the B028 as much as I like the B029 because that extra guard on the end kind of gets in the way when you're trying to do your lashes. So no guard, and the guard kind of just doesn't really do much. And also because of the angle, this one has a little bit of an angle up. You're able to hold it much more naturally underneath your eye and push up through your lashes, versus this one, it has a bit of a curve to it, and like unless your eye is exactly the right curve, it just doesn't work as well. So go for the B029. That's the end of the spiel. And then the B030, exact same brush, just in a different plastic color on the head. Whichever one you like, go for it. And continuing with brows, if you want a very nice spoolie, here's the B013. Standard spoolie. You can use it for brows, you can use it for mascara. Yeah. This is a mascara fan. These are actually really, really great for doing your under eye, and also if you're getting your mascara really into the roots there, this mascara fan is fantastic for it. This is a J4006. It's not something that you think you need until you use it and you're like, wow, how did I do my bottom lash mascara without this before? Oh, and it's also really good for if you like doing things like putting glitter on the tips of your eyelashes just for a fun look. You get a little bit of, like, say, the Stila liquid glitter on it, on the tips, and you just like kind of put it on the tips of your lashes, and then you blink and then there's sparkle effects. Now we're getting into the angled brow brushes. We have one monster big brow brush. This is the J535H. I've personally never used a brow brush this large, but I guess if you completely blank out your face, or if you have no brows whatsoever and you're drawing on brows, this will put it on very quickly. And otherwise, I think what you would use this for is just cream contour or cream highlight. So because of that thing, you put a cream line down, put a cream through here, cream through there, and then you take a big brush like this one, and then you just blend it out. So for if you're really changing up your face shape and you're really like redrawing a face on, and then you take another brush to blend it out, that's what I would use this brush for. Large eye brush that I still don't use. This is the J524H, and this is the B524. So badger versus horse. The horse does feel softer. The badger is crisper and will give you more definition in the line. This one will give you a softer brow. So this is more for, this being the horse is more for powder, and this is for pomades or anything with a sort of wetter texture, because the pomades and anything wet will make the horse clump a little bit, and the badger is just stiffer and stands up to that better. So badger is kind of the standard eyebrow brush because it just sort of, as it goes through the hair, it kind of separates your hairs as it puts product down in between, versus this one is good for laying down a shadow. So like you can see the tail end of my eyebrow is a little sparse. So then I take some powder and I just like kind of stamp it on and then follow it and draw it in. Personally, these are too large for me. I prefer the size down. So this is the medium size. This is a J5549, and this is the B5549. Same deal with what kind of products you would use them with. And this is a much more manageable, reasonable size for me, combining efficiency and manageability. Efficiency meaning how long and how quickly, or how long it takes me to do my brows and how quickly I can do them. So small versus large, here we go. I mean, medium versus large. And then we have the B163, the J163HSH, the J163HS, and the J163H. Okay, so badger, we know what badger does. This one is for if you're really needing to draw in brows, you grab the small badger one and you can draw on any single brow you want. Practically for every day. If you're not a makeup artist, the medium size is more practical. The 163HSH is the stiffest. The 163HS is kind of stiff, but less so. And the J163H is the least stiff of all of them. And that's pretty much how you determine which one you want. The stiffest one will again give you the crispest line, and if you're doing a brow powder like I would do with horse, the stiffest one will give you the darkest color application, whereas the softest one will give you a little bit lighter of a color, but you will get a more diffused edge, so you will have to be careful about how you're putting it down if you want a very clean looking brow. Alrighty, it's the 160H. The 160 in comparison to the 163 is longer, and you're going to get again a softer application again because it's more flexible. And then the B015 is a longer water badger. The longer water badger will feel more pleasant than the short 163 badger, but the 163 just has so much control. If you want an everyday brow brush, I guess, and you really need to draw in your brows, I would choose between the B015 and the B5549. Just a matter of size. And continuing with the longer angled brushes, this is the J162H. And this is how the flats compare. So they're pretty thin, but they're not thin enough to use for eyeliner. And then this is the B264, the most precise of them all. So this one would be for like if you're drawing in the inner corner hairs here, but I don't really do that. So there you go with the different sizes. Let's see if I can keep those numbers uncovered for you. No, I'm covering up the numbers. So here's just a shot of them all together so you can see size and their name codes. And then I'm going to do that with the horse ones. I know brows for people are a very personal thing, so take a good look at them and then pick the one that you think is best for you based on the characteristics I outlined. Go. Into focus. And then these, the big ones. And, oh, yeah, I think that's all the eye brushes. Yay, we're done. Oh, okay. That wasn't as much as I thought it was. All right. Hi, Sonia. What's the idea behind the B series in general? Are they available with different handles, colors, and length, or are they duplicates from the other lines? So they're not technically duplicates from the other lines. For example, I can't find it. Where is it? So the B004 used to be called the J004. However, they decided to move the J004 into the B series and call it the B004 because it is one of the most versatile brushes. So you can't actually find an 004 in goat in the other lines. You can find it in horse, but the horse one, the J004H is horse. The only 004 goat you have is in the B line. And similarly, the 146, the round brushes, the B142 and J146, the B142 used to be called the J142, but they moved it to the B series because it's the most loved, and thus they put it in the basic series. You can find the 142 model in the S line, but the S line is made of squirrel. So you can only find the GOAT 142 in the B series. I hope that clears up what you were asking. So there's no actual straight duplicates unless we're talking about the Kokutan series. And that's a whole nother wormhole that I discuss in my Kokutan video. So go check that one out. In terms of the B series, J series, and 200 series, there's no actual straight duplicates. With the horse brushes, it kind of looks like there are duplicates, and I'll be honest, at first glance, you kind of can't tell the difference between the 200, the J, and the B series, but there's mild differences. So these are the big horse brushes here. See if I can get these to line up. Here, like so. But as you can see, they're extremely similar in size, shape, and everything else. Like, these are probably the only ones I would really call duplicates. So thank you for watching. I've got a lot of cleanup to do, and I will see you guys the next time I do these videos. So as always, leave your questions or comments in the comment section below, and I will get to them. Bye.